When it comes to hip hop and it comes to the culture, like a lot of times I like to explain it in the form of a body. In the beginning, we had the arms. The DJ is just out there playing the music. Then we had the legs, where the breakdancers showed up and started dancing. Then we had the voice, where the MCs were like, all right, let me get on here. But then the kind of body started coming together and we're out here naked. We need clothing, right? So then the fashion started to make its way. And I feel like as soon as hip hop kind of formed as like a person, that's when we started realizing like we have a responsibility to be a business. And over time, whether it was in the late 70s with Sugar Hill or some of the other independent things that popped up, the early 80s, we started seeing examples of how it could be done.
People didn't look at hip hop as a business. It was more of a culture. It was about preserving the culture, but it became a business in the mid-90s.
When I hear the business of hip hop, what comes to mind for me is that it's not our business. We don't own it. We own the culture of hip hop, but not the business.
Hip hop got hijacked by the business of hip hop in very many ways, and it left a lot behind in its midst. We don't have the controlling interests in it. Corporations do. And I think that our generation, this was a generation to rectify that and get it right. And we didn't. There was a time where you could have taken the top 5 hip hop artists of the 90s and 2000s that could have put up 10 million apiece, and we would have had our own distribution pipeline. And then we could have also made sure people got paid properly.
And they say you get what you negotiated, not what you deserve. The business is shady. And because a lot of times that these labels have the upper hand when you're trying to get into the game and you have nothing, just the clothes on your back and you're trying to get everything. And sometimes you take a deal with the hopes of maybe it turned out better after you take this deal. And I've seen a lot of artists lose their socks and the coats off their back by these deals.
A lot of hip hop artists were really happy performing their craft because we were really focused on the creativity, on the swagger, on the movement of it, until it started to really become a lucrative, revenue-generating genre that I started to awaken my clients to looking at the fact that we needed to have a more dominant, prominent role in the economics of hip hop, right? Into how they would participate from their craft and from their artistry.
But we're here now, right? Where people are still not getting what they should, and streaming as a construct has actually devalued music so much. And that sits not well with me. Hip hop was the first tech. It was a universal language, it went worldwide, it had urgency, it scaled in ways we didn't even think it could. Even once we saw what it was capable of doing, we didn't band enough together to make sure we were able to protect it.
My Adidas has to be the earliest memory that I have of hip hop and business.
Run DMC, and they made a song, My Adidas, what made me want to wear Adidas. I don't know if they were financially taken care of.
I don't know if that was birthed from a partnership, but I think there was a long gap between people really realizing that hip hop was good for business, that hip hop really would move the needle and create a significant return on investment. I don't know that one partnership did that, but what I do know is that that partnership showed that hip hop is good for business. With Foxy Brown, we did a partnership with Calvin Klein. She was on a billboard, and that was a major partnership. For me, working with Salt and Pepper, the first time a couture fashion house really designed and allowed a rapper, and I'll say allow because a lot of it was us going to these brands and these brands not necessarily welcoming us with open arms. But Dolce & Gabbana allowed Salt and Pepper to be the first hip-hop rap artist who they would sponsor and provide clothing for Salt and Pepper's tour. And that really was telling because it allowed them to really be partners with Dolce & Gabbana, if you will, and have them support instead of us just, going in and shopping off the rack.
I think for me, one of the most impressive moves was the move that Diddy did in that Arista deal, at least for my time period, that really impressed me.
What stood out big to me was the St. Ives when Tupac and Biggie and Snoop and all of them was doing them St. Ives commercials. That was very big for hip hop. All the Sprite commercials that you see, hip hop has invaded all advertisement. We're the #1 money making genre in this business. I mean, there's nothing that we don't do.
I think the 90s was like this trial run for the business of hip hop. And then you hit 2000 and it's like, aha, hold on. Who has the money? The advertising companies. And they started to bridge the artists with these products. And you got into the product marketing.
All hip hop deals help to open up the door for more hip hop deals, but they also open up the door for more people getting, right? It goes both ways. There've been some great moves within the culture.
The most air-defining and also the most distinct and made the most impact in hip-hop. So I think about Dr. Dre and Beats. That was really the most brilliant brand extension and partnership because it was born out of someone who we had known as a producer, someone who was the architect of sound, partnering with a brand to deliver headphones to us, right?
I don't agree, because I think all we did is give a lot of power to Apple. Apple just whitewashed the entire brand. Now, where is it? But when Beats by Dre was at its height, they had just launched their music app. Dre had the ability to have an entire building in Watts or wherever through LA filled with 90% people of color moving this thing forward. And I think that's what we have to really look at sometimes. Am I making this decision for me, or am I doing it for the culture? So it's important that we look at these deals and we understand, why are we doing these deals? I don't think we're allowed to just make individual business moves. And it's a hard thing to say because every business move I make is gonna affect y'all. So I gotta really think, is this just a payoff? Or is this really a move for us? And we gotta make more moves for us.
You have the 50 Cent and the vitamin water deal.
His inner entrepreneur certainly was birthed by the brilliance that he and the late Chris Lighty, their ability to do that deal really showed us the strength of hip hop. And it showed us how deep and how far hip hop could go, because now hip hop is an ambassador for water, something we do every day. And so when you really look at how those deals really ignited and birthed the next generation to really think about their art more differently, to be more aware of how the business of hip hop needed to live outside of the music.
When you say the business of hip hop, it's like Puff Daddy, Jay-Z, because they really changed the course of hip hop by putting business in front of just an art form. It's like, no, this is our culture, this is our art. We've gotta control the business behind it.
You got Diddy with what he did with Ciroc. You got Jay-Z from everything he's done, from Tidal to Duce to Ace of Spade to everything that he's created. You even have Nas to what Nas has done as far as investing in all the things that he's invested in. The Ring camera and all those other things. He had the mind to do that, and those are all big, major moves.
For me, is my commercial with Allen Iverson. They called me to do a spot for him with his Reebok commercial and me doing some raps. It got received very well. It made it to mixtapes. They was playing it in the club. So that showed me that the power, of hip hop merged with business. This shoe brand turned into a whole thing. And then, not to pat myself on the back, you see the G Units came after that, the S. Carters, a whole bunch of hip hop, artists and shoe brands start doing deals.
That was big back then because rappers didn't have their own sneakers. Basketball players had their own sneakers, but not rappers. But at that point, we started to see the collaboration and the power that we had within the hip hop community.
I just felt good to be early in the game and have the commercial with AI that, solidified the part in history for rappers and hip hop and brands collaborating and doing big things.
There's been so many artists that done so many big things in this industry. Like, look at Pharrell. Pharrell is now doing the LV thing. That's major.
But now we're at a point where so many mega deals have happened, you know, that I think we've moved into a position where we're used to hearing about this rapper becoming a billionaire or this hip hop entrepreneur becoming a billionaire, you know, and it's a beautiful space to be in.